This is the story of one Jeffrey Ndungi Sila. I will show you how the University of Nairobi student who bought 2 planes and lived like a king, together with his family, stole more than 2 billion Kenya shillings in a tax fraud that ended up being one of the biggest cybercrime heists in the blossoming industry. Now, to understand how this story unfolds, we have to begin with his uncle by the name Muli, who decided to try his hand at a new type of cyber fraud called business email compromise, in which they will hack into company emails, identify their clients, and convince the victims to divert payments to new accounts. As Loretta Wavinya and Lilian Zongi, in distinctive orange jumpsuits, walked to prison to start their terms as convicted fraudsters, their cousin Jeffrey Ndungi Sila was eyeing an opportunity to run the racket. The fact that Loretta Wavinya had been jailed for 14 years and her sister Lilian Zongi for 5 years for defrauding the American government of 975 million Kenya shillings was not a deterrent enough for Ndungi. Shortly after his cousins were jailed, Ndungi jumped into the fray, and the returns were so good that in 2012, just 2 years after graduating, Ndungi had bought himself 2 Cessna planes with registration numbers 5YCCN and 5YCCO. Ndungi was only 23 and pursuing an engineering degree at the University of Nairobi when he started leading a flamboyant lifestyle. A quiet and geeky person, according to those who knew him, Ndungi's personality in university was an exact opposite of who he was in primary and secondary school. After sitting his Kenya Certificate of Primary Education exams at Tunoa Primary School in Wote in 1999, Ndungi joined the prestigious Alliance High School after posting excellent grades. His schoolmates say he was very religious and an official of the Christian Union. He couldn't hurt a fly, they say.
Kill this fly for me.
Although that quietness did mask his other side. A friend who bumped into him in 2005, just 2 years after high school, when Ndungi was a first year at the University of Nairobi, was surprised to see him driving a new Subaru. As other students were cramming themselves in hostels after lectures, Ndungi drove himself to his own house in Nairobi's South B Estate, which is a middle-class neighborhood. Ndungi's former university classmate narrated that he was wealthy when they were in university and had several fuel guzzlers, namely a BMW, a Mercedes-Benz, and several Subarus. With no known sources of income, Ndungi's flamboyant lifestyle was definitely questionable, but his classmates had no clue where he was getting his money. It was assumed that his mother, who was based in Kansas, USA, was financing his lifestyle. But Ndungi had possibly been introduced to the vice by his uncle Paul Kilungia Nyumu, the man who introduced his entire family to cybercrime before vanishing into thin air. Nyumu had also played a huge role in laundering funds stolen by his 2 nieces, Loretta Wavinya and Lilian Zongi, who are now serving their sentences. It's not known if some of his money was used to finance Ndungi's flashy lifestyle while still in the university. What's known, however, is that Ndungi had over a period of 3 years watched from the front row seat how the proceeds of cybercrime could finance someone's lifestyle, and he definitely wanted in. He was not alone. Also watching on the sidelines was Ndungi's uncle Robert Mutua Muli, who was by then based in Virginia in the United States. Now, Robert Mutua Muli is a cousin of Paul Kilungia Nyumu, the fugitive and original mastermind of the tax filing syndicate. Another entrant was Nyumu's daughter Monica, who had relocated to the United States after abandoning her teaching career in Kenya. From the beginning, the family relied on Monica's salary, but as the money started flowing and everyone could notice, her husband, a former councillor in Wote town in Makueni County, was forced to relocate to Mlolongo in Machakos County following frequent attacks by armed robbers who wanted a share of their newfound riches. Ndungi was by this time engaged in cyber fraud in Kenya, Nigeria, North Africa, and the United States. He started by hacking into multi-choice systems, which enabled him to mint cash from the illegal distribution of DSTV signals. He then joined the tried and tested family business, which involved stealing the identities of American citizens and using them to claim fake tax refunds. But since he had seen his 2 cousins jailed for similar crimes, Ndungi opted to use Nairobi as his base, and that way he thought he was safe. Meanwhile, his uncle Muli decided to try his hand at which was then an entirely new type of cyber fraud known as business email compromise. Muli's gang, which comprised criminals based in Kenya, will hack into official emails of companies, identify their business partners, and convince them to divert payments to their accounts. But both schemes would soon fall apart spectacularly Similarly, criminal files and court proceedings from the US and Kenya reviewed by the Nation Investigations Desk indicate that while Ndungi was the head of a DSTV hacking cartel in Kenya, he was just but an employee in the US tax fraud syndicate. His uncle Muli as well, despite being integral in the business email compromise scheme since he was based in the US, was taking instructions from people in Kenya. This is according to a transcription of Muli's WhatsApp messages that were retrieved from his phone by the FBI and which we have obtained. The key architect of the scam, who is saved in the messages as Frank M.A., was based in Nairobi and had the right connections in the banking system to enable the thousands of dollars they were stealing from the US to make it into Kenya. It is Frank who was issuing instructions to Muli on almost everything, from registering his own company by the name Rogram Home Improvement, which was to be the recipient of the stolen funds, to whom to send them money to once it hit their accounts. In one of the messages, Frank informs Muli that the bank manager, whose name we have withheld, had written to him about the willingness of the bank in Nairobi's Westlands to take the money. This money was supposed to be wired to a law firm that had an account with the bank. This is how the scam worked. Frank's associates first hacked into Dell's system and created clones of emails belonging to the computer firm's finance department. They then took note of the companies that had running contracts with Dell for the supply of computers. Once identified, Frank would use the cloned emails to write letters to the victims and ask them to divert payments owed to Dell to different bank accounts. Some of the entities that were conned include Fairfax County, which lost $1.3 million in the scam, and the University of California, which lost $749,000. A review of the emails from co-conspirator 1 to victim 1 shows the emails were sent from a single IP address from Kenya. When co-conspirator 1 sent these emails, travel records indicate that Muli was indeed in the United States. The said IP address that was used in the fraud was later traced down and found to be in Malindi. This means that Frank, who has not been arrested to date, could have been in Malindi during the entire period of the fraud. However, his whereabouts or true identity still remains unknown. Meanwhile, as Muli sent most of his proceeds from the fraud to Kenya, he continued to lead a simple life in the US. He maintained his job as a driver and posed as a very religious man to his neighbors. His neighbor Linda Center would later tell law enforcement agencies that Muli never went anywhere without his large Bible. Muli constantly told Linda that he had a prayer ministry for Kenyans, which he dedicated all of his time to, and that his only day of refreshment and ease was Sunday. To the FBI though, all this was a facade. While Muli managed to hide his criminal deeds by remaining humble, his nephew in Nairobi had mastered the art of living like a king. As if buying 2 planes wasn't enough, Ndungi acquired 2 luxury cars, namely a Range Rover and an American Cadillac Escalade. MultiChoice, however, soon realized he was using his legally opened accounts to sell viewership packages to several individuals in Kenya and Nigeria. Consequently, Ndungi was arrested on 31st of March 2015 after police raided his residence at Executive Suite Estate in South B, Nairobi County. He was released on bail, but as the case progressed, he continued focusing all his energies on stealing the identities of American citizens and using them to claim fake tax refunds. To avoid detection, he filed the fake returns using a computer located at a cyber cafe at Vision Plaza along Mombasa Road. After what was a successful 6-year run in the American syndicate, Ndungi's cookies started crumbling in 2014. This was after he used the identity of a Cynthia H. Short to file tax returns for the year. The returns indicated that Miss Short worked for Aureus Radiology LLC, a company based in Omaha, Nebraska, and that she received wages of $116,000. Short's tax history indicated that she was liable for a refund of $76,000. In applying for the refund, Miss Short listed PO Box 925 Uhuru Gardens, Nairobi as her current mailing address. When the US Internal Revenue Service called Aureus Radiology to confirm Short's employment status, they discovered that the company had never even heard of her. The IRS then sent an undercover agent to pose as a client looking to buy treasury checks. The agent contacted Ndungi in January 2016, saying he was looking for fake treasury checks. He fell for the trap, boarded a plane and headed to the US, hoping for a 7.6 million Kenya shillings payday. In his first meeting with the undercover agent, which took place on 1st of August 2016, he received $40 $48,000 in cash after arguing that there were several other players in the deal, all looking to get paid. The meeting took place at Korean House, 2598 Royal Lane in Dallas, Texas. In a taped conversation, Ndungi offered to bring more fake checks. Convinced they had finally landed their man after a 6-year search, the FBI arrested Ndungi 2 days later as an Emirates plane he had boarded to Dubai in order to connect to Nairobi was sitting on the tarmac at Los Angeles International Airport. He is currently serving a 10-year jail term. Robert Mutuamuli, on the other hand, was arrested while at an airport trying to catch a flight to escape to Kenya after stealing more than 200 million Kenya shillings by tricking American government institutions to wire payments meant for computing company Dell. He was handed a 5-year sentence at the end of last year. His extended family were behind the US-based crime syndicate that laundered hundreds of millions of dollars into the country but had managed to escape the FBI dragnet to hide in Mlolongo, Machakos, and in Nairobi County. In total, the family members are believed to have stolen more than 2 billion Kenya shillings in a tax fraud, which ended up as being one of the biggest cybercrime heists in the blossoming industry. So, what do you guys think? Comment down below, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.